Channing Cash was born in a small village in Laos where at 3 years old, she was attacked by a bull that had escaped from its pasture. The attack left Channing unable to walk and was a catalyst behind her parents' immigration to America as they sought better medical care and quality of life for their daughter. Upon graduation from high school in Rockford, Illinois, Channing built a successful career as a mortgage professional and became known as the go-to person for achieving the American dream of homeownership among Rockford's large Lao community. One day, Channing hit the reset button in her life and walked away from the corporate world. She relocated to Southern California to enjoy the outdoors and pursue her newly found passion for water sports. As a member of the United States para-rowing team, she took a shot at the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games. Channing is living her life to the fullest and advocates for accessibility in national parks and in the great outdoors for those with disabilities.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of C4 Podcast, Southeast Asian Athlete Achievement Through Adversity, where we showcase the stories behind the accomplishments. You know, John and I also run Laos Lao American Sports Hall of Fame, where we showcase athletes and their accolades, right? And I wanted to take it a step further and then kind of open it up, not just to Laos, but to the Southeast Asia region, where we talk about, where we have athletes come on and they share their stories. So if you haven't already, please like, follow, and share our page. Tell your family and friends. Go through the library that we have of all the athletes. And again, welcome to the show. I'm going to hand it off to my partner, John Messina, and he will introduce our guests.
Yeah, Channing, we're really excited to have you on. Cole and I went down this journey of showcasing athletes and telling their stories, and I'm not sure we found one better than yours. So an incredible amount of adversity that you've went through, and also just how you really took a shot at your dream in life, we think is inspiring, whether for people with disabilities or not. Taking a shot and doing something that you love and taking charge of your own destiny. We love that about what you've done. So we're really excited. So we want to kind of start at the beginning and just tell your story to our listeners and the Lao community and others that listen. So why don't you maybe start back in Laos? I know you were born there. Start at the beginning.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, as you know, Laos is an undeveloped country, so it's really small, and they use animals to farm. I was just a little girl. So we have 4 girls. I'm the youngest, and of course, as the Lao traditional way is, my mom's at the market every day selling her crops just to make ends meet. And I was left with my sister, and of course, my sister, she's 8 years older than me, so she would have been 11 to babysit like how many other my other sister. So we were just like a bunch of village kids just playing with each other, really, and it was just like they use bulls, they use these water ops and things like that to farm, and it just happened to got out, and I just happened to be there, and I just remember just people just really screaming and yelling, but I didn't know what was going on. I was 3 years old, but I do remember it coming full force at me, and I was so little, and I landed on my back and broke my back, and I shattered my left side of my hip. So, and I think during that time, it was just I think the Vietnam War was going on around that time. So, we weren't allowed to skate or leave Laos. I don't know how much you guys know about it, but I knew that was something we couldn't just leave freely. And over there, they didn't have any major medical help or hospital. I mean, we're in a small village, maybe 100 people, maybe, if that, maybe. So anyways, my parents just decided that they were going to escape Laos for me to get medical help. And that's what we did. And we ended up at a refugee camp for 2 years. I think we did a year in Thailand and then another year in the Philippines. And just escaping Laos, I have a lot of memories of it too. because I didn't really understand what was going on. But this time I was already like where I couldn't walk anymore. And I just remember like we had to get to the other side. I believe there's like a river between Laos and Thailand, and we had to get to the other side to get to the refugee camp. And if I rush the story, that's because I tell this story so many times, and I always want to tell it where it's in my own raw words, so it's not script or anything like that. But yeah, that's what we did. And yeah, so it was a journey to come here, so but that's a little bit briefly of my background.
So we're familiar. Ko was born in Laos. His family escaped.
Okay.
My wife was born there. They escaped through the refugee camp. Same story around that same time.
Yeah.
So,
Crazy.
Channing, I'm big on mental health because I myself have suffered from like depression, anxiety, addiction, and it's just things we don't talk about in the Lao culture, the Asian culture.
Yeah.
Do you remember the event? How did it affect you as a kid, like growing up?
Well, absolutely, because if you know anything about the Laotian community, we're so blunt, we're so blunt to judge, we're so blunt to tell how things are. And if they don't say anything, you're doing well, right? So if they criticize you, you're not doing so great. So, and also like growing up, I was very like, I came to the US and I was, at this time, I was almost 6 years old. I started kindergarten. It wasn't just like thinking you're going to go to a whole different world, accepting a whole new culture and be in a land where you don't even speak the language. It was me dealing with the fact that I'm going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, and really didn't know how to handle that because nobody in a wheelchair. I was the only one in the wheelchair that I knew of. And I think people just predicted that I wasn't going to really succeed. I was going to live with my parent, and whenever they passed, it was too bad, so sad for me. I think that's what a lot of people predicted for me. And I think hearing that over and over, and as you know, the culture, we're not allowed to speak freely to our elders, right? And elders, they could just come out and tell you how the way it is. And I think I heard that so much. That's what like really driven me, that I knew I was going to do something so different. I knew I was going to get out of the Midwest. Like I lived in Illinois at the time. And if anybody knows Illinois, it's nothing but like cornfield and really no opportunity.
We're from Illinois.
Yeah.
We live there now.
I was like, this can't be my life where I'm just going to go to Rockford and just, I don't know. I was just like, I wanted to do something, better. And no, nothing against you guys living in Illinois, okay? You guys have Chicago, okay?
We'd love to be in the Southwest. I would love to be in the Southwest.
Well, I'm the foolish one. I was born and raised in California, and I left there and went here. So I did the opposite of you, Channing. So
wow. Yeah. But
so yeah,
I mean,
must
that's what they predicted for me.
Yeah. So tell us a little about your growing up, your teenage years, because that must have been tough, right?
Absolutely. Because, as a teenager and growing through those years and growing up, everybody wanted to just fit in, right? I mean, it doesn't matter if you're walking or not. You just wanted to find your clique and fit in, okay? And it wasn't just, it just messed up the fact that I had like no self-confidence, because again, people told you so much about what's wrong with you and never like what you're doing well. It's almost like, oh, well, like when it came to the years where everybody got the driver license, right? You guys remember those days where you couldn't wait to get your driver license? Well, it was during that time, and everybody just thought, well, I don't know how you're going to drive, and driving was everything, and I didn't know anything about, I didn't know how I was going to drive and whatnot. So that was like the big thing for me. But I was introduced to hand controls. I don't know if you're familiar with hand controls or not. You know what it is? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I had no idea, but the driver's ed actually had one of those, and I was really surprised that they even had one of those. So that's what I drive with every day. So right there was, and I think like if you guys follow my journey, I drive so much and I don't mind the drive, because when I'm driving, I feel like I'm running like everybody else, like nobody can tell that I'm in a wheelchair. And every time I pull up and park in handicap, I get called out all the freaking time. Like, police are gonna, police confronts me, people confront me, all kinds of people. So anyhow, that's why I'm passionate about driving. But getting back to my teenager year, oh my gosh, I was so afraid that the guys weren't gonna like me. That was like my big thing. Like, was I ever gonna get a boyfriend? It seems corny, right? But it really was in my mind. And I think I kind of blocked that out because I just thought, gosh, I've been dealt with this card and I'm a freakazoid and I'm an alien from everybody. So I was just going to work, and not focus on boys or anything like that. And that's how I did. I just shut anybody that was interested me down because I just didn't believe it. I didn't believe they would go for somebody like me. So.
You mentioned helping out your parents. Could you tell us some of the responsibilities that were kind of put upon you?
I might have to roll up my window eyes because I am parked right by the train and it's going by as we're going. But yeah, growing up, I mean, because obviously my sister could walk, so they had just regular household chore. My mom, I mean, she raised us old enough, like she's like the queen bee of the house, and we're supposed to just do what she wanted us to do. But since I couldn't really do that chores at a very young age, I was like the translator, and this is another why people always says to me, how come you don't speak with an accent? Because at a very young age, I had to be like my family's like CPA, customer service rep. I still remember writing checks for my dad. My dad doesn't know what the amount. I just, wrote it on for him and he would just sign off on it. And that was what my job title was. And then it became where like I did it for my aunt, my uncle. Then it became like almost like a community service to the Laotian community. So yeah, that's what I did growing up.
I get that. I'm the youngest of the family too, and everybody always tells me like, we've paid our dues and it's your turn. So I totally understand where you're from. So.
You totally got it.
Well, you got out of high school and you launched a career and you kind of became almost famous in the Lao community. And I'll tell you, because I have a lot of family there. And I reached out and said, hey, would you happen to know Channing? We're going to be interviewing her. And they said, of course. Yeah. And so anyway, you had a very successful business career that you got into. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, when I was in high school, people are like, well, what are you going to do after high school? Because I think I was working like a part-time job at like Magic Water and then Target and Walgreens. Those were like my 3 jobs I had if I was not in school and we got school break. And then regular, like if there was a school season, it would be Walgreens and Target. And that's what I did. And then I think one day my counselor said to me, like, okay, so when you're in high school, what do you want to do? And I was just like, I don't know what I want to do. But everybody always recognized that I was always outgoing, I was always friendly, and I was always willing to help. And, I think my counselor said to me, she was like, you would be really good in like marketing or some kind of finance or banking, They told me that there was like an intern that they were looking for. I was like, yeah, okay, sign me up. I'll go for the interview. No big deal. All right. So that's what I did. I ended up working. They put me in the mortgage department. And back then, they didn't have computers where you just fill out the form. They actually had like a paper document where you fill it out. You remember those days, right? So the loan officer would handle that, would give me the loan papers, and I would have to put them in the computer. And that's what I did. And then I kind of just like, went to work with them off and on, off and on. And then people was like, well, what do you want to do after you do this? And then I became like an assistant to one of the loan officer. And every time when anybody wanted like a home loan or anything, and the fact that I could speak another language, it became where they're like, oh, well, have you talked to her, blah, 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 you know. Even they're like Vietnamese or Filipino, they would just send them to me. If they spoke another language, they would just send them to me. And that's what I ended up doing. And then I did that for years and years. And then I think there was a position with Bank of America open up for a loan officer. And I kind of knew the paperwork because I remember I was 16 years old and kind of built, you know, really knew the paper system and kind of worked my way up. And they actually sent me to school and everything. And I ended up working with them for the longest time. And then the community just kind of knew that's what I did. And they came to me anything that was they needed, really. So.
Awesome. Tell us about California. Like what was, you know, tell us about the day where that light bulb went off and you said, you know what, I'm getting out of here and I'm going to California, and tell us the story behind going out there.
Oh yeah, I think my vacation time was coming up. At this time, you know, like my business was really growing. It was just like nonstop. I worked like 1 billion hours a week that I felt like. And then in the days that I was off, I would go help my parents because my parents are getting older and they still needed whatever their admin was. And I was just kind of like, gosh, this can't be my life. And I know some people think that's like an amazing position that I was in, but at the same time, I just didn't feel like I had really any time to myself, you know. It's just like I worked a lot, you know, and I think I had some vacation time and I was so sick of the snow. I mean, you know, snow sucks for people that can walk, okay? But just imagine pushing yourself in the snow. You load up your wheelchair and you have just snow all over your tires. You track them in the house, you track them in the car. It becomes like, it's just frozen on your tire. And I was just like, this really sucks, you know? And since I was in the finance business, you always had dress sharp, right? And it didn't matter what pants I wore. There was just snow liquids on the pants all the time. And I just hated that. Every time I looked at my clothes, I hated that, you know? And anyways, my vacation came up and I thought, you know, I've never been to California, you know? And I think at a very young age, everybody says California is horrible because you have an earthquake, you know? Everybody's not really realistic there. Everybody's fake and blah, 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 you know? And I thought, well, I'm just going to go there just because I wanted to. So I went there and, well, actually, before I went there, I was looking at Facebook and they had this surfing event for people with disability. It was called Life Goes On. And I thought, well, how is that going to work? Like, who does that, you know? And I thought, well, if they had a program and I had never been in the ocean my entire life, I've only seen it for a distance, you know, but never went in it. Why not sign up for it? So that's what I did. And I went out there and I think that was my first time where I actually saw people with disability that was like me. Because there's like a lot of different type of disability, but you didn't like, I was kind of like in a wheelchair, but I wasn't like super immobile. Like I was still able to get around, like still drive. I live independently. And I've never really seen anybody in a wheelchair like that. It was either like they were a little challenged than me, or they were like super duper like senior citizen, like they couldn't get around kind of type. And I think that was like an eye opener for me that, you know, my life is great in Illinois, you know, but at the same time, I don't want to like do that for the rest of my life and not really get to spend time outdoors and all this other stuff. And I think going to California brought back my childhood. And the childhood is I just felt like, you know, I always wanted to ride a bike. I never got to do that, you know. I wanted to know what it was like for wind to blow my hair as I'm riding that bike. I never got to roller skate, never got to do anything outdoors. You know, I couldn't even go kayaking without anybody saying to me, do you have a walking person to go with you? Because there's a liability issue if you drown. And just hearing that kind of statement makes you feel so just so like if you weren't even human, you know? Because how do you know if I could swim or not? How do you know if a walking person could swim or not? You know, but they don't ask walking people stuff like that. And just all that brought me back to where I need to go to a land where it's a little bit more, I don't know, like liberal, more a little bit more wasn't going to be so judgmental and assume what I can and can't do. And so I decided I was going to move back home. I flew back home and I sold my condo. I sold all my investments and I said, I'm going to go for it. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to do, you know? And that's what I did. I kind of came to California, sat around for a little bit to kind of figure out what I was going to do. So that's how I got here.
Awesome.
Well, you did some big things out there. You got into some sports. Tell us
Yeah.
a little bit about that. That's exciting.
Well, when I first came to California, I was working for Airbnb and I did manage property manager. And I didn't know a whole lot of people, but I wanted to do something that was recreational outdoors. Just because, come on, we live in Illinois and we don't really get to go outside until summertime, you know? And also I kind of felt like, you know, I'm getting older. I wanted to like keep myself healthy too, you know? So I signed up at this club for like a paddling session and everything. And somebody was telling me that that I was really good, you know, and I was, yeah, when people tell you that, you're just like, yeah, okay, whatever, you know. But they were like, no, you should really, they have like this Paralympic team for Team USA. You should really, you know, think about doing it. And I think I paddled my first season and then I was just doing like little local races here and there and everything. And I thought, well, why not? I never got to do that. Why not? And that's what I did. And the first season, of course, I didn't make it. So I just trained really hard and came back the second season and auditioned the second season. And I got on the team. And then I did, you know, I ended up doing 3 seasons with them. And I just decided I wasn't going to go back this year because I wanted to do other things. I don't know, like I still love paddling, but I wanted to pursue other things. So
Yeah, that's great. So you were, I know, hoping to get into the Tokyo Paralympics, but unfortunately you had a tragedy in your life with your mom's passing. Tell us how that impacted you.
Oh, I mean, it's hard because I was on the team for 3 seasons and just really abusing my body. I mean, because if you know sprint kayaking, it's an extreme sport. It's not an easy sport. Walking or not walking, if you even look at the walking division, it's a hard sport. It really is. And it really took a toll on my body. But that was like my goal, is to make it to, you know, at the Paralympic level. And, you know, one day I just got a phone call and my sister was telling me that my mom was diagnosed with cancer. And I didn't really know how to take that because I guess when I talked on the phone for her, she just seemed so normal and she was so energetic. So I didn't think it was going to happen that fast. I kind of figure if anything happened, it was going to be like after Tokyo. I wasn't participating. It was going to be right then and right now, where she only had like a few months to live, you know? So I went home, I flew back and see it, but every time I saw her, she was so normal. She was still working in the garden, running around, you know, yelling at my dad or complaining, whatever she is, you know? And I didn't see it coming. But then towards the end, my sister was like, you know, you need to come home because I don't think she's going to make it, you know? Because you could just kind of tell that she was shrinking in size too. And it was really hard because I've been training for so long, you know. I mean, the Olympic happens every 4 years, you know. But at the same time, I was like, this is my mom kind of deal. And and also I felt like I found the sport at because I'm 43 now, I'm going to be 44 this year. I felt like I found the sport at a really late age. So I was racing people like in their 20s, you know, and they have all the energy in the world, you know, like after my race, I'm exhausted. I go to the hotel room and I go take a nap, you know. That's how you know you're really in the 40s. But yeah, and then also like I started kind of like a lot of time I would drive to my races, and because we carry a lot of equipment with us, like a paddle. I also have a special seat that's custom made for the boat rentals and things like that. But every time I drove, I would take a detour of just like national parks and things like that. And I was really passionate about that because I didn't get to do all that when I was younger. So when my mom was passing and everything, I was like, you know, I just need to just step back for a minute, and just not do this and go home and spend as much time as I can with my family. And that's what I did. So
we're truly sorry to hear about the passing of your mother. So,
yeah.
tell us about the future. Tell us about Paris Olympics,
Um,
your plans.
well, I know Paris is 2024, and I decided that I wasn't going to pursue that just because I started working with a lot of overlander companies and things like that. And I was more involved in the camping side now because I just felt like, you know, I always feel like anytime when a walking person wants to go camping, they don't have to investigate like the land, the terrain, the path, if they want to do this or do that. But like for me, I had to investigate the whole like list of agenda, what I'm going to do that trip. And so I started getting with the like national park and start doing some trails for them and things like that. And kind of, so the national park is working on changing accessibility for not just somebody in a wheelchair, but there's people out there that walks with a walker, or there's people out there that's with a power chair, and they're trying to change things. And I decided that I was going to be a part of that program. So now I started traveling and I start speaking about how important accessibility is to us. So I've been so focused on that. I just felt like if I went back to paddling, I couldn't do that. It was just going to be paddle, 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 But I think I'm going to skip out this Paris one. But if I still can, I like to come back and represent the LA one, which is 2028. So that's my goal, to do these national park and help it make it more accessible for all abilities. So that's what I'm working on now. So, and then after Paris, I would like to get back into paddling, and hopefully my body still lets me do that. So that's where I'm at.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's exciting. I've been following your adventures in the outdoors. Tell us about some of the cooler places you've been.
Um, let's see. I have gone like the movie. I think my favorite part so far is the movie Jurassic Park, and it was a filming location in North California. And I have on my Instagram. It's they call it Fern Canyon, and these canyon has nothing but ferns on either side, and you can walk through it as a loop, and it has waterfall, and it has like creeks and river that runs in it. And it's just like mind blowing thinking that's in California, because I swear it looks like you're in Hawaii somewhere or somewhere in the rainforest. So that has been my favorite thing that I saw 2021 so far in my journey.
Yeah, that's incredible.
You're from Northern California, ain't you, John?
Yeah, I am. So it's there's some parts along the coast that are almost like a rainforest, very wet, very
Yeah.
lush, and in a really beautiful area. And yeah, for somebody like you, it's incredible with the work on accessibility. So you guys can get out and enjoy that. And I've seen some of
Yeah.
the unique equipment you use to pedal out there. It's really exciting. So with that, where can people follow you and see these adventures and see what Channing's up to?
Well, I'm on Instagram, and I have it under Wheel and then Channing, my name. I'm also on YouTube. I just started getting serious about YouTube because I really didn't have time, because editing takes a long time. I mean, you should know, right? And just capturing a certain view, certain moment. So I just started working on that because I wanted to inspire like other people to get outdoors. Because when I was younger, I didn't know anybody that actually has a disability but's going out there and living it. And I think more and more people start tuning into my stuff, and I'm getting like messages from these children, these parents, and I'm just living my life. I wasn't trying to do anything, but seeing that, it makes me happy to know that these kids with disability, or not just kids with disability, anybody, because when they see my video, they're just like, oh, I can't believe you're doing that. How did you do that? I didn't know you could do that, But just hearing that kind of makes me feel like, wow, I inspire somebody to go out and do that. Like there's older people that reach out to me and said, God, now that I see you paddleboard, I'm going to go and try it, you know? And that makes me happy that I can inspire other people to go outdoors. Yeah.
What advice would you give to those like facing adversity, or those who maybe have a hard time following their dreams? Like they want to follow their dreams, but family's in the way, right? Like our culture is like,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
stuck, you know, and they feel stuck. What advice can you give to them?
Oh, that one's so hard because the Laotian community is so strong, so hard because like when I first came out to California, my mom and dad, I think they like disowned me for like a month or so because they were so upset that I moved away, you know? And also I made it harder for my sister because I wasn't there to take my mom to the store and do things for her that I used to do, you know? So they hated me for a little bit, you know? But because I moved out here, my mom got to come out to California and see the beautiful weather and see beautiful California. She was like, okay, now I know why she moved out there and she ain't coming back. I got it. Now I got it, you know? And she's always telling me that if she was younger, she would totally move out here and things like that. But that is very, very hard. But you have to, because like, would you agree with me? The guilt trip, right? Because
Yes.
if you
Oh,
don't
God.
do
I was gonna say that, the guilt trips. Asian
the
moms,
guilt trip,
Laotian moms and their guilt trips.
yes. Oh my
Oh,
God. Oh my God. Yeah. I had to go against my mom a little bit, you know, but after a while, she realized that she understands why I did what I did. Because the more success I bring in my life, she gets to tag along, right? And when she gets to tag along, it makes her happy because she has a daughter that can translate to her and she could say whatever she wants because, you know, I'm her daughter, you know, where she was traveling with somebody else, she has to be a little bit more respectful and kind of like, you know, she can get to do what she wants, but when she's with me, she tells me how the way it is. You know how you can relate to that.
yes.
Yeah, but sometimes I did have to go and evaluate myself a little bit and say, hey, you know, my mom had her life. I'm not saying that I'm going to be disrespectful against her, but at the same time, I had to like live my life of what I thought was best for me. So if you hear that negative thought, sometimes you have to step back a little bit. I know you're close to your family, but you have to step back a little bit because in the end, if you don't do it, you're always going to wonder
Mm-hmm.
what would happen if I took that leap, you know? And
Uh-huh.
I always tell people, even if you fail at it and you need to come back to Rockford, Illinois, I told myself too, if I had to come back to Rockford, Illinois, I can still get my banking job because I left on good terms, you know? Because I did prepare myself for that too, just in case, you know? And then for the rest of my life, my parents can say, I told you so. But anyways, sometimes you do have to distance and you have to really follow what you want to do. Like I said, because I say failure is not a bad thing because if you fail at it, you took the chance to try it, you know? And even if you have to go back to where you think you fail, you just need to redo it and do it better the next time. And you'll know, at least you are gonna know um what the outcome was instead of sitting there thinking, what if I did this? What if? You see what I mean? So that's something that you have to kind of choose how important that is to you.
Yeah,
Because
that's some
sitting there, yeah, sitting there is not going to change your life. No.
that's some wonderful advice. John, do you have anything for Channing
Yeah,
as we're
no,
closing up?
Channing, we appreciate you coming on. I mean, I'll tell you, your story is obviously inspiring to people with disabilities, but to be honest, it's inspiring to anybody, right? Who really wants to chase a dream and take a shot in life. Because like you said, you know, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. You took
Yeah.
yours, and Rockford, Illinois, will always be there. um, you only have one shot at your dream,
Yeah.
and we're so happy to see you living it, and we look forward to continuing to follow your journey on your social media. So thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've been an awesome guest. We love hearing your story. So, and I can
Thank
only
you.
imagine, like, as a female, as Laotian female, you know,
Yeah.
the pressure for you. I, being a boy or a male, I kind of got away with it because, they didn't, I was, unfortunately, the males get can get away with it, but the females, it seems like, especially in our culture, just more pressure and more guilt trips and all that stuff. But that's great.
I know. But even what you guys are doing now, there is no Laotian podcast that I'm aware of. I don't think so. So right there, you guys are doing something different, and you are taking your chances of doing that.
We're trying.
Yeah. And that's why, you know what? And I always say, as long as you are consistent, if you are consistent with it, I think you're going to succeed.
All right.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. We just had a conversation about that before the show. It's kind of like, just got to keep plugging away, It's just like we kind of reviewed some of the episodes, and we're talking about this one and that one, and how can we get more, and we're on the same page as far as, and he's a great partner, John, because let's keep going. Let's keep trying. We won't know if we don't try, right? So
exactly. Yeah. I would still be in Illinois by listening to my mom. See.
I'd still be in California if I listened to my mom. Well, great. Well, thanks so much, Channing. Enjoy your evening.
All right. Thanks
for having me, guys.
Enjoy the weather. Bye-bye.
The C4 podcast is brought to you by the Lao American Sports Hall of Fame. Visit us on the web at laoamericansports.com, celebrating the first, inspiring the next.